Welcome to DVC Alumni, where every story inspires the next. The Alumni podcast where you get to hear the inspiring stories and transformation that DVC has had to offer its alumni. And now, on with the episode. All right, and we are live here at DVC Alumni, where every story inspires the next. And I have Casey here from our culinary program. He's actually a student. Don't let the gray beard fool you. So, but he's got a great thing that we're going to talk about here in a minute. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, Casey?
My name is Casey Ferreira. I'm a student here at DVC. Like 2 more semesters left before I graduate. I guess.
Okay. Well, yeah, we'll start and then let's wind the clock back. So where did you grow up?
I grew up in Concord.
What high school did you go to?
I went to Concord High for like 6 months, and then I got kicked out and ended up graduating at a continuation school. Actually, Concord High had started Summit, and so their school was from noon till 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Okay,
which is a way better schedule for me because I'm just not a morning person. So,
which actually being a chef would probably work out much better, right? Anyways, so so you grew up around here. What'd you do after you got out of high school?
Out of high school, I just kind of. I got into a lot of trouble actually after high school. I did a lot of things that I shouldn't have. Went to jail for a couple of things that I shouldn't have.
Okay.
But what I ended up doing is just falling into construction just because my family grew up. Or growing up, my family owned apartment complexes and stuff like that. So we were always into construction. Yeah. My dad and my uncle they were like not business partners, but my dad worked for my uncle who owned the company, and so he did tile. So I grew up like when I was like 8 years old. I was mixing mud for them and bringing them mud while they're floating the walls and stuff like that. Yeah. So I just kind of fell into construction, and
you fell into the family business.
Yes.
Okay.
So, but I also did music. So I do have music on Spotify and stuff like that.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So I love to do I was always I just like to create things, and so
what we'll do is we'll put a link to your, send me the link so I can put a link to your music also. Yeah, we'll do it all, man.
So, but yeah, I started, the reason why I started doing music is because we spent money on an album. It was like $15 and it was a double album. And I was really mad because only one song was actually a really good song. And that was the only thing. It was like, I didn't get my money worth.
By the way, this was back in the days of records, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Vinyl. I bought a lot of those.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. The double albums So basically that's pretty much how we fell into doing it, and then got into producing and writing and stuff like that. So,
okay. So what would you call your style of music?
Hip hop.
Okay.
Yeah. I did hip hop, a little bit of R&B. I don't sing, but we'd have singers come in and do their thing on tracks and stuff like that. So.
And do you have your own home studio? Or
I do, yeah.
Oh wow,
yeah.
Okay.
So, like I said, we started at 15, and I told you I got into a lot of trouble. So, how we got the equipment was doing, not so good.
Anyways,
yeah. Yeah. Well, that's where it passed that.
Well, but the thing is, ultimately you did get yourself back on track and stuff like that. I like that you got into music, and now do you continue to do music?
Yeah, I do. I get asked to perform here and there. Like last year, I performed at a church in Vallejo.
Okay,
it was pretty fun,
Yeah.
So
cool. Okay, so you did the construction business for a while because you had and actually, truth be told, is you were fortunate enough to have a family business to fall into.
Right.
Yeah.
Music was always a plan B. Even though, I made music, or I made money doing music by recording because I was a sound engineer. I got into doing live sound and stuff like that. So I've done gigs and I know how to set up sound and all that stuff when it comes down to that kind of thing. So.
Oh, and truth be told, that's probably actually where the music is for 99.9999% of everybody. Not everybody's Taylor Swift.
Right. Yeah.
So, or Jay-Z.
Right.
Yeah. All the rest of us regular people, it's like you make it by being a producer or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. The roadie or putting things together in the background, the sound engineer, making sure the sound works. Actually, I ended up having to be my own engineer on a couple of, on a couple of gigs that I had just because the sound guy was horrible. So I was like, hold on, move out of the way. Let me just get this real quick.
We'll get back on track in a minute, but I'm just really interested to talk about, because I was, before I got married the first time, which was in 1983. So I was in a number of different bands and we went into a studio. Now, studio then was way different.
Yeah.
There was, the 2-inch tape and it was, that's how they did things.
Yeah.
And we were recording in 8-track because nobody could afford a 16-track unless they had money.
Yeah.
And
reel to reel, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, but it was like the big soundboard, and it's like, we did it out of somebody's home. So like in the garage, they built this soundproof room.
Oh, right, yeah.
And they had all the plugs, and then they had everything cabled up to one of the back bedrooms.
Yeah.
So, but talk about like your progression through music as far as like the technology and stuff, because it's different now. You do it on a computer.
At first, we started out with it was a digital audio recorder.
Oh wow!
And then it's just kind of started moving into, because this is around the phase where ADAT and all that stuff was kind of phasing out, and the stuff that you were talking about was phasing out.
Stuff was
yeah. So it was moving into more of a digital scene. So like recording on your computer and having interfaces, which now bigger studios are actually using the interfaces and, using Apple and Pro Tools and all that stuff as they're recording, which is what we ended up moving into. Only we got like a cheap version of that. What's crazy is that a lot, like if you really know how to use your equipment, you can make it sound really good.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing when it came down, what we figured out is that having a really good mic was the best thing to have, because you can always take out sounds from the background, you can edit, and it was, once you get into the computer and you start understanding what you can do with it and the language that it talks about, then that's when you can really manipulate what you really want to do and use the a program to its fullest capability. So,
yeah. Well, it's as you were discussing that about the equipment, and it's the knowledge really that makes it. Is like I was thinking about a story about Pablo Picasso.
Right.
He's sitting in a cafe towards the end of his life, and he's sitting there on a napkin, and he does just a doodle, and this lady sees it. She's like, "Oh my gosh, we get a Picasso!" So she goes up and goes, "Oh, can I have that?" And she says, "Oh, sure, I'll sell it to you." And she says, "How much?" She says, $80,000. And she's like, $80,000? It took you 2 minutes. Says, yes, but it took me a lifetime to learn how to do that.
Right. Yeah.
And that's where it's just like, it's just like the practicing over and over, finding out what works and what doesn't.
Yeah.
The thing that and having a good microphone. But then again, it's like, that's like the one piece of equipment where, okay, this part matters.
Right.
My laptop is my laptop, and the software is the software.
Right. Yeah.
And well, that's exciting. So you still get to do gigs and stuff like that. You still record and you have stuff out there.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. So now you've been doing tile and construction and all sorts of fun stuff for a while. How did you end up here at DVC?
It's kind of a crazy story. So back in 2013, I had some issues with my neck, and basically the doctor told me that I couldn't do construction anymore. And so I was like, great, and at the time I'm married, and we just had a baby, so she's 2 years old at the time, and we get into this big old fight because I'm like, hey, you're gonna have to like get a full-time job right now because I can't do construction. I don't know. It just turned into this whole crazy thing, at the time being on medication and dealing with, the whole, like your whole life is upside down and, depression and all kinds of stuff. Cause I owned my own company from 2006 to 2030. Well, I mean, I still kind of dabbled afterwards, like in handyman stuff, just because I couldn't take on full on, remodels and stuff like that. Yeah. So, I was just trying to navigate that whole thing. And then in 2022, it was when the Sriracha shortage happened, right?
I remember hearing about it, but it wasn't. I mean, I'm more of a Tabasco guy, but it's like I get it. So yeah.
It was crazy because Sriracha has this big old, it's like a cult following.
Oh yeah.
It's so crazy. Like people like die for it.
And they get tattoos and they get,
So I have a buddy out in San Jose who was like, hey, if you find Sriracha out in Pittsburgh for, some money, I'll pay you $20 for a bottle. But online, people were actually paying like $120. Like they were selling them for like $120 a bottle online. And I'm like, no way. And so I was like, I'll make some better than that. It was kind of like a joke that we had. And I went out because I didn't really think that the shortage was like a real thing, because I could have swore I'd just seen some. And I just bought some of because they make a garlic, chili paste kind of thing with it. And I was like, I just bought some of that stuff, it's actually really good. And so I went to the stores and I couldn't find any of it. I was like, oh, wow, he's right. That's crazy. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go and because I had just seen a TikTok that showed how to make Sriracha. And so I was like, I'm going to make that and I'm going to make it taste better, And so I made a whole batch. I started handing it out and I got really good reviews, and people were like, hey, you got any more of that sauce? Hey, you got any? So I was like, okay, cool, let's go. So I transitioned from my construction and my handyman thing into the culinary side of things. And then I started doing research on how to get my bottles into the stores and into restaurants, and figured out that you needed a commercial kitchen to get there.
Yep.
And I'm like, well, I don't know. I've never worked in a commercial kitchen in my life. So I better start just taking a couple of classes, and seeing what that's all about. And that brought me here to DVC.
Wow.
And so, yeah.
Okay. All over hot sauce.
Yeah. Right.
You're the Sriracha guy.
Right.
So, yeah. And it's this, there's another DVC alum, Greg Berkowitz, who has a company now called Burke's Beans.
Oh, okay.
And he does coffee.
Right.
And it started off as, I think it was during the pandemic, as kids were giving him a bad time about, Dad, you need to do something. He started out of his garage.
Right.
But yeah, again, it's like one of those things where now he's got a thriving enterprise. And,
right.
Cool. So you go from, I'm going to make the better than Sriracha.
Right.
I go to DVC and here you are at DVC. And so what's that been like being here?
It's been great. At first I only came, I signed, I went in and I talked to a counselor and got on with the 2-year degree thing. And I only, honestly, like I said, it was only just to come in to start figuring out what it looked like to be in a commercial kitchen. So I was only planning on taking a couple of classes. And then after taking the couple of classes, I was like, this is fun. This is great.
Yeah.
And so it just turned into I'm going to go get my degree because I think it'll look better, for me starting a business. Yeah, I have my AS and, just when it comes down to if I'm trying to shop the sauce to investors or whatever.
Shop the sauce.
Yeah.
I like that.
Right?
I like that.
So I just figured that having a degree behind my name would actually look better.
Yeah.
And so, coming here, we're kind of in this transition phase of coming from the old administration into who we have now. And I don't know, I just, I love what they're doing. I love the vision that they have for the students. I love the vision that they have for DVC. There's a lot of great things that are in the pipeline. One of them is obviously going to Italy, which is studying away. And so with that whole thing happening, we kind of a group of us who are like, oh, we need to figure out what it's going to look like to go to Italy.
Let's talk about, okay, so we're there now.
Yeah.
So they have these study abroad programs. This one is significantly different than a lot of them, know? And so talk about what the study in Italy thing is.
So the study in Italy thing is basically we're taking our career and we've been our school, part of life over to where we're learning about a lot of things. A lot of the stuff that we're learning basic is coming from that part of the world. And And so the idea is to go be more versatile in our cooking. So going over there and actually studying on how they do their culinary program and their techniques and, and things like that. So we'll be able to understand exactly why we're doing what we're doing over here and basically where it's coming from, and we'll get to see that culture and what different cultures look like. So, eventually we're trying to get to other schools and reach out and make those connections around the world so that, you know what I'm saying? Like we can get out and see exactly what different cultures look like and what it means to cook that kind of food and
cook that kind of food there.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's going to be different than cooking it here in Pleasant Hill.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, because I love living in this area, but I gotta say it's like diverse cuisine is not exactly our strong point. That's, when you're going over to Zio Fredo's, which they have really good Italian food,
right? Or
Wise Girls, which are both, peace. I've known it for a long time. It's probably not the same as when you go to Italy to Naples and go, experience that, or you go to Southern Italy versus Northern Italy and stuff like that. You start actually seeing, something that's a little more sophisticated than what Chef Boyardee brought over.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Not to say that what he brought over was bad. It was just, it was new and yeah. So the guy on the can with the canned spaghetti was an actual person.
Yeah.
So, and he actually introduced, Italian cuisine to the masses here in the United States.
Yeah.
So that's what the program is. So now there's a group of you that want to go.
Yeah.
So talk about that.
So, in the making of all this thing, because this is so brand new, it's just kind of like, this is, we're just kind of like, trailblazers, like we're the first through the forest. So we're the ones that have the, machetes and cutting down these, pathways to where our destination is to go. And so us as students, we're getting together and we're like, oh, we need to be more collective, like, plane flights. At first, the plane flights where you guys go individually. And then I was like, oh, that's going to suck. Like, because, or at least for the teachers being there waiting for the students, because different times, different flights, and you know what I'm saying? So layovers and you know what I'm saying? So we're like, doesn't it make more sense to just all go on one trip? And then this way, we're not trying to collect people randomly. And so especially students who have never been abroad, like navigating that whole airport and just everything.
Yeah.
Customs, that whole situation is just kind of chaotic, especially if you've never been there. And if you're going by yourself, it's like even more intimidating because you're like, where do I go? And I don't want to accidentally get arrested for something that I didn't mean to do.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that was our main goal behind what we started. And so, so we thought that making a club was going to be the way to go. But in reality, we wanted to do fundraising and to make these costs, because the cost is pretty high to take a trip over to Italy,
well, and back.
Yeah. The round trip back.
Yeah, and back.
Yeah. That round trip.
Okay, I'm there. I'm peace. I'm going to stay.
Right. But that whole cost it's taxing, especially for a student. And so we're like, what if we were doing fundraising, which, throughout the semester, the teachers have been doing pop-ups and, there's other little things that they have been going towards the foundation, which will actually help pay for some of the, or soften the blow of the financial burden on the students when it actually comes down to pull the trigger. So our idea is to get it down to make it to where every student can get there more easily. Not that they're going to get a free ride, but you know what I'm saying? Like it's more feasible instead of coming up with like $2,000 to.
It makes it within reach. Well, and to your point, and this is when you first came in and we started talking about it, I realized that because I know you'd gone down to Student Life and talked to Todd and Renee down there, and they were like, they heard the idea and they're like going, no, that doesn't fit in the model because it's, well, in all fairness, it's like the Student Life clubs here on campus are more about, the students here, kind of the college experience and not necessarily the study abroad stuff.
Right.
And to Todd's credit, he recognized that and didn't try to fit a square peg into a round hole.
Yes.
And so, so they set you up here, and we had a discussion, and it was like, I'm always like, yay, let's try something. I'm like, so what's the name of this club?
Hospitality and Culinary Association.
Okay. And we have a spot in our alumni platform, which there'll be a link to it in our particular show, to this, as well as your music. And of course, we'll have it both. Talk about some of the things you're doing coming up and how that helps support the club. And then we'll talk about the club some more.
Okay.
So we've got a couple of things coming up.
So right now we have dinner theater, which is coming up this Friday.
Which is, what the heck is the date?
Yeah, it's the 10th.
Thank you.
Is it? Yeah, the 10th.
So, oh my God.
Yeah.
So dinner theater. So by the time this drops, that'll have come and gone. But that's an opportunity for you guys to kind of sharpen your skills and stuff like that. And then at the end of the month, we have
Alere, which is something that we really need to push right now because it's a really big event.
We'll talk about what O'Leary is.
So Alere is it's called the O'Leary Symposium. And basically, it's a food festival where you'll have chefs come in, talk about, they'll basically talk about the culinary industry and what they're doing, new things that are coming up. There'll be classes that you can actually go attend to teach you how to make pizzas. There'll be food, wine, vendors that are local that the chefs have really good relationships with in partnership with DVC. They will all be there, and it's all to inform us about the culinary and hospitality scene that surrounds us.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of the times, I don't think we realize the importance of what the Bay Area and culinary world is, because we have a lot of famous chefs, like out in the French Laundry, 3 Michelin stars out there in the Napa Valley. And then there's a lot of wineries that have
world famous, world beaters.
Yes.
Well, even like Livermore has some world class, and people don't think of wine in Livermore, but that's actually where it started growing.
Right.
In California when they first brought grapes to this area.
Right. So, that's why I think that Alere, on top of it, once you pay your thing, you don't have, there's no other, unless you're going to do like the silent auction, which we have a lot of restaurants that have partnered with us that will, that help donated a lot of their cookbooks. So right now we're still talking about actually making a table that actually cooks the food from the cookbooks that they've let us have.
Oh, wow.
And so this way we'll have the silent auction. This is what you guys are, and this is the stuff that's coming from the books that you guys are actually getting. So,
that sounds like fun.
Right. So there's a lot of things that are coming up,
Yeah.
And so I think the more that we can get people's attention on what the culinary department is doing at DVC, that is. What were you going to say?
Oh, I was going to say, and Alere is coming up on the 29th.
26th.
Yeah. Okay, not the 29th,
Yeah.
the 26th.
And then it's from 9:30 to 3:30, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's either 3 or 3:30, but yeah.
That'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
That'll be a lot of fun.
All the proceeds from that is actually going towards
The trip.
I'm not sure if it's going to go towards this trip or if it's going to go towards a trip later on, but those are the kind of things that we're trying to do. And then we're also talking about after we get our things situated as far as the association, doing pop-ups off of campus, which will actually incorporate alumni, because alumni will be the ones that are helping setting up, taking on mentorship with the students.
Well, and I know that Chef Aaron has a really good relationship with Pebble Beach.
Right.
And what are some of the other areas that you know of around here? What are some of the other restaurants you know around here that
what that's looking for, that we're partnering with?
Yeah.
There's a lot. There's I know we have Chef Oscar's, I forget the name of it, in Walnut Creek, but it's It's a Spanish restaurant out there.
Oh, oh my gosh.
Starts with a T.
Yeah, I know, but I know where it is. It's like they do tapas up on the top of the yeah, and it's a like really nice place.
So
I still have to take my wife here. Don't listen to me, Shelley. So but no, it's just yeah. So it's that sounds like it. And so that's the thing that I think Chef Aaron has brought to this program is partnering with all these amazing restaurants around this area. And actually, to be fair, I mean, I think of Pleasant Hill as being kind of we got okay places. Well, we got great tacos. That's one of my favorites. But I'd love to see a French spin on tacos. That would be interesting,
right?
That's a great idea. That could be interesting. I'll have to think about that. Yeah, I'm getting a weird look from Tim over there. So, it does. It always has to come back to tacos. So anyway, I love tacos. But we'll leave that part in.
Okay, Chef Aaron's the best, but again, wine donated for this Friday night, and he wants to make sure I get it to him on Thursday so he can have it in the cooler for a day. Like, okay,
of course, of course.
I hope I didn't even do early now because I already had it. Now, exact right time. I was like, okay, that's a little air.
Oh my gosh,
don't need any wine.
So, yeah, you did. Well, we might leave it in. So.
I appreciate you a lot.
I know. Well, I think he's done amazing things to really kind of bring
24 hours.
Well, he's done a lot to bring something to the program besides just, this is how you cook an omelet.
Right.
So it's certainly, and I know that we're working on some other stuff through the hospitality thing, he's working on developing a hotel program, management program, because years and years ago, back in the olden days when I was a kid going here, they actually had one, so that was, back in the olden days when wheels are square, as the saying goes, and we all rode dinosaurs. Yeah. So cool. So the club that we're going to call it an alumni club, or alumni group is really what it is. Right. And so you guys are going to go around, you're going to be partnering with other restaurants around here doing pop-ups and stuff like that. Is there a way for people to find out where those are? Now, I know one of the ways that we're going to work on is through the Alumni Association platform.
Yes.
Is shooting it out through that. Anytime you have a pop-up, you can shoot out a message through that. Is there other ways? Are you guys going to have a website? Or?
Yes. Well, as of right now, we literally yesterday just created our social media. Oh. So we have TikTok and we have Instagram.
But you'll get me that information.
I mean, we need to put content on there. So I think after Alere and all that stuff, then we will have more content.
Okay.
Just because we talked about it last night and we're like, it doesn't make sense to attach something that doesn't have anything, no content. So
if people do it all the time.
Yes. And then, it's like, what is this, spam? Like, what are you doing?
Hi. Yeah. And that's it. Hi, hello. I've got 2 friends. Oh yeah, you're a good friend request. So there's not going to be anything weird coming out of that. Right. But, okay. Well, but what I'd like to do is be sure that we get that so we can continue to push it out to the Alumni Association.
Right. Yeah. And then that will be our main driving force as far as what we got coming up, what we've done in the past, what the program is all about, what the HCA is all about. You know what I'm saying? And get people more involved from the community, and then I think that the more that we get it out and the more that we link arms with the businesses around us, I think that the community will grow in a positive way.
Well, like you said, you're the guys at the front of the, I worked for a wholesale lender, mortgages, and they went out of business because it was during that time period. But they said that, he's like, I can tell who the pioneers are. It's like they're the ones with all the arrows in them. And I've always thought it's like, no, that's usually you're the ones that are out there. You're either too optimistic to know it can't be done. And so then when it succeeds, it's kind of like, oh, see? Told you.
Yeah, right.
Everyone's like, no, it'll never work.
Right.
And so I tend to be like that. It's like, oh yeah, it'll be great. You know, that it's hard, but that's always the way it is.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'm really excited. We will put a link to the association we'll have all that stuff set up. We'll push out the Instagram, the TikTok later. As you guys figure out how to use TikTok, I'm going to like ride on your coattails a little bit because I haven't figured that out yet. But then again, I'm old. And so, you know, and no, Tom and I are not going to be doing a TikTok dance, even though he says he wants to.
Oh, man. Okay, great. That'll go viral.
And it would, but not for any of the right reasons, but actually it would be all the right reasons. So, well, cool. Well, I'm actually really excited. We're also I'm going to work on getting Chef Aaron in here to talk about O'Leary some more in the program and stuff like that, because I think that's very exciting. I know last year, the Alere that he did last year was like really popular.
Right.
And so that was, you know, it sold out. It was just like a big deal. So, and we'll put a link in this to Alere and like put some push on it too. Hey. Cool. Well, thank you, sir. Thanks for coming in. Yep. Hey, it's all good, man.
Yep.
See, all the way from construction to now you're working on going to Italy.
Yeah.
So go learn how to cook pasta more better.
Right.
All right. Thanks a lot, man.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to DVC Alumni, where every story inspires the next, the podcast for the DVC Alumni Association. You can contact us at alumni@dvc.edu with any comments, and be sure to leave a like and subscribe to our podcast.